Okay, hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for our spotlight interview with Dr. Karine Rashkovsky on entrepreneurship, how to remain resilient and optimistic. My name is Jenna and I will be moderating our session today. And throughout the presentation, we'll be managing the chat functionality, so please feel free to enter your questions and comments in the chat box found at the bottom of the screen, and they will be answered live. We will also have a 10-minute question and answer segment at the end of the interview, just to answer more in-depth questions from the audience as well. And for those of you who are new to CSPN, we are passionate about providing development, consulting, and networking opportunities to support organizations in delivering exceptional experiences to both customers and employees. And as mentioned, the subject matter expert we will be interviewing today is Dr. Karine Rashkovsky. And Karine is the founder and director of Brainpower Enrichment Programs and is well known for her award-winning entrepreneurial work in the field of progressive education in Canada. Some of the many awards she has received includes 2018 Top Entrepreneur in City of Vaughan, 2019 Top Entrepreneur in City of Mobile, 2019 York Region Passion into Practice Award, the 2019 CSPN Entrepreneur of the Year Award, and a 2020 RBC Women of Influence nominee. And Karine leads a large team of diverse PhD educators in transformative educational programming and has co-authored various Brainpower textbooks and also has research that has appeared in peer-reviewed journals such as Educational Leadership and Urban Education. And facilitating our interview today will be CSPN's managing partner, David Singh. David is an experience-driven executive who has built and led client-facing teams in a range of Fortune 500 and mid-market companies. He is passionate about helping leaders and organizations simplify their strategy to ensure alignment between internal and external stakeholders and ultimately drive traction towards happy clients and team members. And on that note, I will pass it over to David to begin our interview today.
Great, Jenna. Thanks so much, and Karine, thanks so much for being here. We got a chance to connect at at a previous award show, but then again, leading up to this call as well. And just appreciate how busy a time of year it is for you as you guys finish up the academic year, and get into what's a very different summer for us in Ontario. But maybe just in your own words, just to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your path that got you to leading the charge at Brainpower. We'd love to know a little bit more.
Thank you, David. And thanks so much for having me. It's so exciting to share this wonderful pivot time with all of you, and appreciate the honor of speaking with you. So yeah, a little bit about me. I've been in the education industry for quite some time. I'd say that once I graduated from my PhD, I looked at the educational landscape and thought, okay, there's got to be something and some way to take things to the next level and really provide excellent experiences for kids who are bright, who are capable, who are academically inclined, are not really getting serviced enough in their day schools. And, Brainpower has been, a well-kept secret, so to speak, for many years. We have close to 2,000 students who come to us weekly now. And as Jenna mentioned, a team of PhDs. And the idea is to create the most incredible classroom experience for these kids in subject matter they don't normally get in school. And the idea is to make them fall in love with knowledge and have a passion for learning simply for the sake of that. My staff are trained in stand-up comedy. We deliver really meaningful and exciting lessons, and we're blessed because the kids we work with are just amazing.
That's awesome. No, I think as I was listening, I was like, I kind of want to, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to enroll in any of these classes. They sound like a lot of fun. I think I'd be outpaced pretty quickly, both on all fronts, but it would still be a great experience.
Oh, you're too humble. I don't know about that, David.
And I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned you talked about the classroom, and then apparently there's a pandemic that's going on in the world, and we've had to all make some changes. Our business for sure as well. So a lot of the folks that we work with and are listening in and participating are entrepreneurs, and they're working within companies. Some are entrepreneurs, but we all have had to pivot in the last few months, especially, and as is probably the most recent example. And sometimes we've had to pivot several times in several ways. Can you tell me, like, what was that pivot like for you guys, and what was sort of involved? And most importantly, what did you learn in it? But then, how does it that you were able to manage some sort of balance? Did you get balance? Was it just, we made the pivot and everything was fine? Was there bumps in the road? Like, how did it work, and how did that change your team?
Yeah, it's quite an interesting story. I got to say that leading up to March break, as news of the pandemic became more intense, I got to say I was really scared. We are an in-class experience, right? And so although we do have a learning management system, an education portal that kids log into and provides absolute transparency for the parents and our materials and everything, at the end of the day, it's that in-person piece that we're all about. So the idea of having to shut down was a nightmare, actually. It was like, I was definitely not sleeping at that time. But what's fascinating is where we are now, and I'd love to share the story of how we got to where we are now, which is awesome. I'm so excited about the pivot that we've made. But really, if I had to steal a quote, it'd be "never waste a crisis." And I think it was Churchill who said that, and it was related to like political exploits. And that's not how I mean it. I think in the medical world, it's been used in a much more positive way. Like, you have a medical crisis, and now you have the impetus for new medications and approaches to mental health. Anyway, I like to see it as never waste a crisis in my industry as an important time to really rethink strategy and pivot in ways that maybe you've dreamed of but haven't really gone about doing. So one of the big things that happened in March when the announcement was made is I said, okay, well, I want to make sure we have absolutely uninterrupted educational experiences for our students no matter what. Yep. How are we going to do that? I want to make sure that technology is not going to be a limiting factor in the sense of, equitability in terms of access. I can imagine at that moment, if you've got one computer in the house, you've got a bunch of kids, parents who need to work from home, like, how is this all going to come to pass? And also in terms of the crazy, growth curve there of actually learning online conferencing tools. I mean, we had to make big decisions. So I thought, I'm going to go all out. And that's kind of my style, and make this the most ultimate, big, huge virtual hug to everybody. I love you guys opportunity. And I think loving your clients is really part of that, really doing everything from your heart. So I thought, okay, how do I make sure no matter what, this is going to be amazing? Hired a professional film crew. We were at Brainpower nearly 24/7 for a good couple of weeks, immediately at the announcement, filming our lessons forward a bunch of weeks. So that way, no matter what, kids could have their Brainpower experience from home. And no matter what time of day, they could watch it 1,000 times, they could rewind, they could pause. And so that was going to happen. In addition to that, because we use Canvas, we made sure that Big Blue Button, which is a Zoom-style online conferencing feature, was going to work for us so that kids could actually log in if they can at the time of their class and get their lesson with their classmates, with their teacher. And then on top of that, David, what I really was so committed to doing was making sure that kids maintained relationship with their teachers. And so they could schedule one-on-ones with their teachers on phone, on Skype, on Zoom, on Big Blue Button, whichever medium they wanted, anytime, unlimited, so that they felt connected and they felt supported during this time. And of course, parents were invited to do the same. So that was the trifecta of awesome that we launched. Yep. And thanks to that, and this is one of the exciting things that I'm so passionate about, is that we were then able to open up Brainpower across the country. And this is that pivot that I've always dreamed of, but have never been able to do. I shouldn't say I've never been able to. I had the opportunity, but didn't take it. Yep. This was a wonderful opportunity. So now we've got kids across Canada. This has been, over the last few months that people have found us. We've reached out to let people know. So that's been exciting. And parents, just like you said at the beginning, like, parents have asked us for years, like, when do we get to be in the class? When do we get an adult version of this? And they've been participating alongside their kids. Like, I've had classes where my students have their parents join, and they're absolutely welcome to. And I call them their doppelgangers, because I've got like a Benjamin and a Benjamin too, and I know it's his mom. And they're writing me these beautiful notes and calling and saying, I love this. Like, I knew I loved brain power before, just hearing from my kids, but now I get the brain power experience too. So anyway, I have just been so amazed by, that the 180, like the fear beforehand. I'm like, what's this going to look like? And where we are today in terms of how far we've come. I'm so thrilled. And I, again, feel very, very lucky and privileged that we were able to run with it in this way.
That's great. And so I think seeing that, like, we get forced into making these sort of pivot, I think to me, the sign of a great entrepreneur is that you take action more than anything. It's just take action and keep momentum going. But I'm sure that didn't really land well with some folks. Like, there must've been some bumps along the way. Like, was it just as simple as, hey, we put the videos online and then it just worked?
No,
is that how it worked?
I wish it were that simple. No. So I would say that there are two main issues. The first one I would say is communication. So I strongly feel that communicating with your clients and your staff often and lovingly is so important. But how? Like, what, I mean, and this is something I we teach our students, like, what is communication? Communication isn't just talking. Communication is sending a message, making sure that message is received and understood, right? And so when we, launched this new way of learning with us, we had to make sure that our clients understood it, that they were able to take advantage of it. And I got to say, I was at first quite amazed by how many people weren't checking their email, didn't get the memo, didn't hear the voicemail we left, and didn't know what was going on. It was on our website, didn't check our website. And so there were frustrations where, we'd get a call saying, what's going on? This online thing isn't working for me. And then we'd find out that they hadn't actually logged in or paid.
Yep.
And so it took time. It took a lot of outreach. The teachers got involved in the outreach. We did whatever we could to finally get the message out. But between the first day of launching and actually making sure that all our clients, and we'd run reports to see, who was involved and who wasn't, it took time. And of course there was frustration in between that. So that was just a labor of love. Mm-hmm. Other piece of it that I found was interesting is this. Those videos that we made, like Brain Power Goes Hollywood, right? Mm-hmm. We put so much into that. We went like super high class on that. And yet some parents said, well, I can just go to YouTube and find any educational video. Why do I need this? Mostly, of course, those people hadn't actually seen what we had produced. Yep. And sometimes optics and perception is something important. You can provide quality all you want, but if people don't understand that that's quality, if people, haven't given it a chance, or if it's not out there, if they don't really know the difference, then again, it's hard to share that with people. Yeah.
And how did your team react to making this change? Was it like, oh, here's another thing we've got to get done, or and they maybe were used to being on a video? And because sometimes, as a segue, like I've done a lot of video production and recording of folks and whatnot, and there are people that are not always good on video. In that they don't translate. Like, was it a challenge for the team to make that shift, and them saying, well, I signed up to be an in-class teacher and professor, and now I'm doing it this way, and I'm working 24 hours, as you mentioned, and I didn't sign up for this. Like,
absolutely.
How did you manage the team as you went through that pivot?
I have to quote one of my team members after we made decisions together. I like including my team in decision making. So when we made these decisions together, she said #dream team, because everyone was so enthusiastic. First of all, many people out there lost their jobs entirely. I did not lay off, furlough anybody. Made sure everybody was continuing to be employed and paid well, and that whole piece. So that was important. I think that the key piece is that I asked who wanted to be the star of the videos. So not all our teachers were the actual recorded video stars, and that helped a lot, because you're absolutely right. Some people might be more nervous and uncomfortable, and very different than they are in person. So we chose the people who wanted to and who we knew were going to deliver the message well on video. And then in terms of the online conferencing, we had a lot of training sessions. So we met as a team, we helped each other, we shared tips and techniques. Every week we would send out notes on like, oh, I tried the polling, I tried the breakout rooms, I tried this, it was so good in this way. So there was a lot of collaboration and trying to help each other out. And that's just the culture that we have at Brainpower that has been built over many years. But you're right. I mean, it's again, steep learning curve, right?
Absolutely. And I think I think you mentioned it in terms of the communication side of especially with clients going through change and saying they need to hear it over and over again. And there's a little voice in the back of your head as you're leading the team saying, well, if they have to hear it a bunch of times, did I pick the right message? Is it the right plan and the right strategy and to be able to see it? So it's great when that feedback loop starts to come back. I'm curious on the side of, look, you think about all the announcements that are happening at the K to 12 area, which is sort of right in your wheelhouse for your students. Mm-hmm. Questions of campuses are planning to return in the fall. Who knows what the next few months will bring? Hopefully we're seeing kids back in school, and it's likely as close to as exactly as possible. And that can thrive. What were some of the challenges you saw at the student level as you made this shift? Did kids just get it, or are there new ways that you found to help them get the content, digest the content, learn the content?
Yeah, absolutely. So because we're grade 1 through 12, it definitely varies by age group. Mm-hmm. So I would say the youngest kids really needed a lot of that love and support from the teachers, having extra calls, having their parents involved, making sure they have everything printed out before they start the class. Like there's more of that organizational piece that they really, we had like checklists for them, and really got the parents engaged as much as we could. I mean, everyone's busy, so we tried our best to make it as easy and as simple, but they're adorable, and they enjoyed the experience. And I say in past tense now because this is our last week of classes, but we are going virtual for summer, of course. Now, our middle school kids, I think, are the winners in terms of the technology. They were so excited to engage with the technology, to learn how it works, and to use it in its fullest. So they were the most simple transition people, I'd say. High school kids, oh my goodness, David, you would think that they would be the ones who would be the I guess most tech savvy, and I guess they are, but they were the most shy. So all kinds of features that we wanted to use with them became very difficult to use because, many would refuse to turn on their cameras. They'd be shy to talk in the mic. And of course their parents aren't necessarily as engaged and seeing what they aren't using in terms of technology. So that's been a challenge, and we've had to find ways to dangle a carrot to get them to engage in the best way possible here and there. But that's really it. I think also we've had messages from kids saying, oh my gosh, we're not doing anything at school. I look forward to these lessons all week. And so providing them with finding extra materials, having extra challenges, so that, really supplementing for their day schools has been a part of this as well. And keeping the line of communication open with them, making sure that they're loving it.
Right on. No, I think that it's tough getting people to learn new things. And I think it's also to be able to do it with to have multiple learners who are not engaged and wanting to, or trying to learn how to be engaged, and to do that and to figure out those age brackets and from that perspective, super. Tough.
And then, heck, I teach public speaking. That's one of our marquee courses. And if someone didn't have their mic working, even maybe they wanted to use it, but it wasn't working that day, then we need workarounds, right? So it's okay, so when we finish today's meeting, take your phone, record yourself, send me the video. I'll give the personalized feedback on today's theory to practice piece. So finding ways to make sure that they're going to continue to be involved no matter what happens. So
I know I'm going to sort of ask anyone who's listening in if they have any questions, they can throw it into the chat. I'll be looking out for that, and Jenna might be able to help us out with some of those. I want to think about. We talked about the communication piece of leading that was working with your clients. Are there any other tips or tactics that you, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, that you think people should really be thinking about? And this could be, again, a range of employees as entrepreneurs, or employees as team leaders, or just team members, or other fellow entrepreneurs, as they're thinking about managing that sort of resilient response to change.
Sure. I think one thing that comes to mind would be strategic partnerships. Mm-hmm. So again, Brainpower has always been a word of mouth business. It's all about friends telling each other. And at this point in time, given the need to pivot and also to open up, nationally, we needed to have a different approach. So it was wonderful to make connections with other businesses, either in the educational space or in multimedia, to figure out ways that we can help each other in this time, and then take advantage of the opportunity to make changes. That was a really cool opportunity. I'll give you an example. There is an amazing art school in Richmond Hill, Richmond Art School. And so we connected with them and made sure that we broadcast to our wonderful clients about them. They broadcast about us. We shared how we've pivoted, different strategies. Render Media is the media company we partnered with in order to create cute videos. Yep. So again, wonderful partnerships that came out of this that were important to make. And then through that, of course, other connections were made, introductions, networking. I mean, you guys are the gurus, but it's all about that network. I always believe your network is your net worth. So it's important to keep, not stay insular, and make sure you're speaking with people and getting the word out and learning from others.
I think it's so true. I had someone reached out a conversation yesterday on this, was just, and he runs a fashion business and is looking to use this chance. He's like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me, because it's forcing me to take a break and look at other things. And so the question was sort of what's next and how to think through it. And he's like, I was, whether this is a bad thing or not, I think I was his 40th call that he had made, and which is great. Like, it's like the fact that he's reaching out to so many people and having these conversations, and I think that ability to sort of reach out and ask for help and to work through it. People respond well to people who ask for help. It's when you don't ask for help, no one knows that you're sitting there struggling on anything. So the ability to do that. And I think everyone, to your point, take advantage of that crisis is a great way from there. On a personal level, as you've, in this last few months or in other times you've been growing a business, and I'm sure there's been bumps and curves in the road as you've grown Brain Power. What keeps that equilibrium for you? What helps sort of drive balance, and do you think you have balance in how you work?
Well,
maybe some people disagree with it, but maybe how does balance work into your schedule?
Sure. I mean, balance means different things to different people.
Yeah.
For me, it definitely means making sure that the machine, i.e. the body, is going to allow for the central idea station here to actually function. So no matter what, I tend not to miss workouts. My trainer will attest to that. And to make sure I don't skip my yoga sessions. And especially now that the weather's nice, making sure to get outside, get that vitamin D. I don't give that up. There are a lot of things that I don't do that many people do, like, watch movies, television, I don't know, that kind of thing. But I definitely will not miss whatever it takes to stay healthy. So yeah, that's my personal way of trying to keep a balance.
If I take one thing away, I think I'm going to try, and that's going to be my thing. I found this was a tough shift for us. And the thing of getting back, I miss the gym. Like, the gym to me is where I actually enjoy that. And the not having that is a challenge. And it's not a real excuse, but it's the one I'm going to go with for this pandemic to work through it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think it was the ancient Greeks. They said a healthy mind and a healthy body. So I got to keep those creative juices flowing, and they're not going to flow if the rest is not really working well. So yeah.
Exactly. I'm just looking at the chat. Maybe I'm not seeing it, Jen. I'm not sure if I'm not seeing it on my side in terms of any things coming through. But I got a few other questions here. I'm just going to look at my notes here to see if
we did have a question from someone. Karine, can you speak more about your success to expand nationally during this time?
Sure. Again, we've never really tried to market our business or to grow in the traditional sense. I understand that's not really like the business person's approach. Usually it's like, create something awesome and spread it. I like to think of us more like a fine dining place. We're boutique, we're niche. But at the same time, I also really want kids who need us to be able to access us. So when the opportunity came up to have kids join us from different time zones, I thought, okay, listen, let's do this at least to have that opportunity out there for people. Now, It's taken some creativity. We've got kids actually joining us from overseas now, not just Canada. And so if there's a 12-hour time difference, then it becomes interesting. And I say the success comes in flexibility. So that is, we work individually with each client to see, okay, what's going to work best for your child? And we make accommodations. Does it take extra work? Sure. Does it take a lot of love? Yeah, but that's what we got to do. So if you want success, in my opinion, you can't be cookie cutter. There's not one size fits all. And it just takes a lot of love to make sure it'll work for each and every client in the way that works best for them. And we try our best. That's it.
You keyed in on it a little earlier of sort of really sort of love and appreciate your clients. And I think that's got to be key is we always have a thing at CSPN where we have opinions inside our organization, but facts come from our clients. And the idea of listen to what they want, because, and again, as the entrepreneur do things that don't scale right away, of maybe the 11 p.m. class, in Vaughan or Ontario doesn't make sense long-term, but it does for that new client. And down the road, that's something that opens up a new market from.
Yeah, you never know, right? You never know. So we'll do whatever we got to do. And yeah, exactly. We'll see what happens down the road.
Is there anything that as when you think about an ideal, folks coming to reach out, we've got K-12 students. You're focused on bright and engaged learners. Like, who are the folks that you're really looking to attract to come join you guys in your learning?
Right. These are kids who are curious, who are really interested in a challenge. They tend to be the kind of kids who want to find like-minded peers and want kids like themselves so they can learn with and from. These are kids who they don't necessarily have to be labeled gifted, but they certainly have some academic talents and they feel bored elsewhere in their lives. They really just want to dive deep into learning. And also kids who are interested in subject matter they're not getting elsewhere. So some of our subjects that we teach would be design thinking for engineering, for example. You're not getting that at school. Classical rhetoric and public speaking, debate, not getting that at school, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I think it's kids who are really eager, and sometimes it takes their friends to fill them in. Like, hey, this class is amazing. We're doing a whole course just on sci-fi. You got to join, and then they fall in love. But yeah, just bright kids. We make them fall in love too.
That's great. That's awesome. As we wrap up, I'm conscious of sort of time. We asked for a little bit of time on your Friday afternoon as we get into, it kind of feels like next week's a long weekend. It probably feels like that for you because you sort of the school, the academic year is kind of wrapping up, moving in. We've got a holiday next week. So I kind of feel like it's a sort of long weekend, even though everyone's working on Monday and Tuesday in our team. But as we wrap up, is there one nugget, is there one bit of advice you would think to give to folks around resiliency, around growing through tumultuous times? One sort of parting thought that you can think through?
Absolutely. Besides love your clients, which I'm going to stick to for sure, I think it's definitely rethinking the customer experience and addressing that immediately. When things have to shift, like you said at the very beginning, you got to take action and not a moment wasted. Outreach, definitely.
Right. There is one last one, which is great because I think it's a good. You're great at it. Is how did you get into public speaking? Was a question.
Okay, my favorite story. Here we go.
Yeah.
I was a really, really shy kid. I'm talking, I couldn't raise my hand in class without my face turning red. I'd go to the library with my parents and hide behind my dad and ask him to ask the librarian for the books I wanted to read. I was that kind of kid. But at the same time, I had a lot of ideas. I mean, I was writing screenplays and reading all kinds of books way above my grade level when I was a kid. And yet I saw kids who, were just normal kids, but they had so much confidence and charm that doors would open for them that I was like, what, why, right? And I guess, once I got into education, I began to see how important it is to have a voice and how important it is for, all kids, but especially kids who are shy and yet at the same time have what it takes to be incredible leaders, to share their ideas. You can be the most incredible mathematician, but if you can't make people see why your idea is amazing, right? You can have the answer to the world's problems and if you can't communicate it, if you can't make people get excited about it, it's probably going to go nowhere. And so I did a lot of self-teaching, taking classes, reading on the subject matter, and then integrated that into Brain Power as one of our core courses. Again, because we're teaching future leaders, and I really feel strongly that they need to feel that they know exactly how to relay their passion and their enthusiasm for whatever it is that they're excited about in academia or beyond.
I think that's so true. I think it was talking about like you're sort of leading into like, especially you talk about like rhetoric and debate and all that, like into the liberal arts of that, and the ability of more than anything in the world. And I'm a liberal arts undergrad, so I'm allowed to be biased on this one. But the ability to communicate your thought is something that I think every organization needs. It every good idea needs the communicate from that perspective. So that sort of trial and seeing that vision of saying, I want to communicate my ideas, so I'm going to learn the skill to do it.
If you can inspire people through your great communication skills, you can lead, you can make impact, you can affect the human story. That's what we want. That's what we want for our children. That's what we want for these amazing minds who are growing up in our world. So.
Well, I can say on behalf of Canada and the world, thanks for doing what you're doing, because you're inspiring young students to be better and be with peers. And you've got a great group of people. You've pivoted, you've paused, you've moved on with the new approach. So with that, I just want to close off. It's sort of we're at the 1:30 mark as we finish up. Thank you so much for taking some time to spend with us, and have a great weekend and a happy Canada Day as we head into it. Thank you so much.
Thank you again.
Cheers. Thanks everyone for joining. And Jenna, is there anything else we didn't need to cover before we wrap up?
We did have one last minute question.
Okay.
If we have a couple minutes, Karine, if you're okay. The question is, in a situation where you're drawing blanks, how would you get out of it? Do you have any advice?
As an entrepreneur, I'm assuming?
I assume so, yes.
Okay.
Or maybe in a public speaking setting as well.
I can speak to both. As an entrepreneur, I'd say talk to your team, right? I think that making sure that you're keeping the conversation open and having brainstorming sessions is so important. I think some of my best ideas are ideas that were bounced off other people, and then they threw back some other ideas and things morph, right? So I definitely say that. In terms of public speaking, drawing a blank, well, there's a few ways to deal with that. I think that it's important to have touchstones when you're speaking, like, instead of memorizing speeches, just having kind of big ideas that you want to touch on. So if you draw a blank and you kind of have an idea of different touchstones, that works. Otherwise, I mean, if you're passionate about what you're talking about, the best way to bounce back is to get into storytelling. You know yourself better than anybody else. You can tell a story about yourself. And you can also have pre-made fun, witty sayings that you can throw in. There's all kinds of techniques. I mean, that's part of taking the public speaking course, is learning how to do that. But yeah, there's wonderful, wonderful opportunities in blank spaces, including dramatic pauses.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So if anyone else has any questions, feel free to enter it in the Q&A window or the chat. And then for the time being, we also have a post-session poll that we'd like to administer here just to get your feedback and let us know how we're doing. And I will pass it over to David to close our session.
Great. So again, Karine, thanks so much for taking some time. I know we were going through all sorts of topics, and I get more excited talking to entrepreneurs and hearing the change that you're going through. So we know it's a busy time, and I just wanted to say thanks so much for taking the time.
Absolutely.
And
thank you.
There we go. So with that, we'll say thank you everyone for joining. If everyone could fill out the poll as we head out, that's great. And we will talk to you guys all soon. Thanks, and have a great day, everyone.